Good morning. It is the week before Easter. Easter is a big weekend. It's a big Sunday. Easter is when we really celebrate this idea of Jesus resurrecting, Jesus conquering death. There's huge significance around this idea of what Jesus did on the cross. And as disciples, as Christians, we're all about that. What Jesus did on the cross is a big deal to us. And we also recognize that if Jesus just simply died, then there's actually no power available for us to even overcome a life of sin. But it's because Jesus conquered death and then resurrected that we can have hope. It's because Jesus resurrected that we can believe in the kingdom of God being established here through us, through disciples of Jesus. And so I hope you're getting excited for next week. We're going to be at the All Church Gathering in Rosenort. And if you can make it out, I really encourage you to make it out. But even beyond that, I hope mentally at home in your mind and in your heart, you're preparing for Easter. And a big part of the kingdom of God and this resurrection lifestyle is stepping into the mission of Jesus. I think when we understand what Jesus did for us on the cross and the power that's available to us for our own personal lives and how we've been united with God and restored with God, when we sit with that and when that really hits the core of our hearts, it compels us to share that with others, to share the good news of the kingdom of God with others. And so today we're actually going to do something a little different. We're actually going to focus on conversations about what it looks like to evangelize in different ways, to meet people's needs, to share the gospel. And so today we're going to hear from Kelvin and from Ben and from Shannon and from Dave. And my encouragement to you as we go through this is what stands out to you that you feel God is stirring inside of your heart? What does this resurrection lifestyle look like in your life? And who is God calling you to? How does God want you to step out and share his love with others and allow others to have an opportunity to know that there's a God that loves them dearly and wants the best for them and wants to empower them to overcome a life of hurts and brokenness, but actually wants to give them love and a future and hope? What does that look like in your life? All right, let's dive into it.
Here we are. Got a little bit of emotion come over me. Just.
Okay.
It means so much to me about reaching the lost. And
yeah. Okay.
And it just kind of really hit me right there. So.
Wow.
Just being real.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, this to you isn't just another conversation. This is real life for you.
Yep. This is what God showed me is our direction of being a lion. We often listen to the Lion of Judah. Okay. What does it mean? Stepping out in faith like a mustard seed.
Okay.
And, only if we move is when we can see the goodness of God in our lives. Yeah. And this has just been a total avenue of being able to do that, being free. If you failed, no big deal. Stand up and do it again. Stand up and do it again. And well, maybe I didn't say the right words. God knows the words that made and penetrate where they need to go. So just stand up and keep on moving.
Yeah.
And like what you shared in the prayer about everybody's heart's in a different spot. And right now, this just happens to be Shannon and I's our passion of being able to show the love of God to other people.
And I'd love to I love that we're jumping into the middle. I actually appreciate that. I'm going to zoom out for a moment.
Yeah.
And then let's sort of get into, this whole idea of Lions. What is Lions? How do you guys get involved? But real quick, just even for context, which home church are you a part of?
Actually, this one right here.
This one right here.
Morden. Megan and Henry. Pembina Street.
Pembina Street. I love that you know the name.
Yeah. Yes, we're part of this one. This semester is this one.
And if you were to, I'm really trying to help everyone understand, there's people that know you, there's people that maybe don't know you so well, and maybe there's people that know you but don't know this specific answer or question that I'm about to ask. But if you were to sum up, and this has to be a short summary because I really want to talk about lions.
Yeah.
So this is just like real quick. If you had to sum up how you came to a point where you wanted relationship with Jesus and start walking with Jesus, if you had to sum that up into like 2-3 lines, what would those words or lines be? I'll give you an example. For me, I felt like I heard God's call in my life. I felt like I was running away from it, and I got really tired of running. I said, fine, I'm going to stop running and enter this place of rest by being in a relationship with you. That's sort of like the summary of me entering a relationship with God. What would it be for you?
Religion I knew was not for me. I ran away from it really young. Like I got baptized when I was 18.
Okay.
And like only a couple months later, I was in a bad spot in my life, hanging around people that went to the bars, went to different spots that just wasn't very what I learned.
Okay.
But I really believe God saved me for a time as this. To sum it up in like 2 little words, it's like I was in the depths of hell, and God picked me up and said, that's not who you are. That's what happened to you.
Whoa. It's good because I think when, like, we've been going through the book of Romans, and I think one of the things that's really clear when you're studying the book of Romans is this invitation into a life with Jesus radically changes you. It's not a subtle change. It's not a small change. You're going from death to life, from slave to child to heir. So there's a major transformation that happens. So I think what you're describing in your life sounds very much like what the gospel does to people. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
It's my story.
Yeah.
And every time I try to when I get, what are we supposed to share? Share your story, David. Just share your story.
Yeah.
It's what God did for me, and he can do it for you too.
Yeah. One of the things that happens when you start walking with Jesus, and particularly like living in the Spirit and being led by the Spirit, is you start to see things through a godly perspective. You start to develop the heart of God for people. You start to develop the heart of God for the situations around you. And for you and Shannon, that's brought you guys to a place, or taking you many places, but one of the places it's taking you right now is this involvement with Lions.
Yeah.
Now, real quick, the way I'd love to angle this conversation is for clarity on how I'm approaching this, is I know you, and I love you, and I'm interested in you as a person. Part of you as a person is your involvement in Lions. So I definitely want to hear about Lions, but the reason I want to hear about Lions is because of you. And so I'm definitely going to shape and structure this conversation in such a way that I'm really trying to get to know David and this part of David or this part of Shannon, as opposed to I'm really trying to sell Lions on people. And so that's sort of the approach that I'm taking. Yeah. So leading into that, I'm curious, how did you get involved? Why did you get involved? How is your walk with Jesus? How did that compel you to get involved in this?
You know, I don't remember exactly when it was. Well, now it's 10 years ago.
Okay.
Shannon and I became Lions. And as we learned more and as we got to learn more, I'm going to show up a little picture here. And you asked one of the things that really motivated or moved me to be a Lion. And one of the things, this was a pin, which is literally just about the size of a loonie, when I couldn't find it because it's so special to me. And I'd taken a picture of it. And what the words on it is empathy in action. Empathy in action. Yeah, so it's empathy in action. And I got that from a district governor. And that really summed it up for me over the years of its empathy in action.
Wow.
We just look at it as being there, not so much that the church has failed, but the church puts itself into a box. And for me, it was, how do I get to know my neighbor, and how do I love my neighbor? And we talked about this in one of the church groups that we were in, about how are we going to help the neighbor at Christmas time. Well, if we don't know our neighbor, how are we going to help them? Well, I'll get onto their driveway, clear the snow. What are they going to say? Get out of my driveway? I'm sorry, I don't like the fact that you're clearing my driveway. It's my snow, my mess.
Most people wouldn't say that.
No, so I did a bunch of them. Some people recognized that I did it.
Okay.
Some of them I just volunteered. Oh, they need it done. And then through the word of mouth, it comes out. And it was really funny stories that come up at Tim Hortons. Did you clear my driveway? Did you clear my driveway? Like one of the guys is 84. He's had triple bypass surgery and he goes for coffee. But he's got a heart. He takes people to cancer care, but he can't clean his driveway anymore. So why do we need to put strings on it to go and help him just because he's belonged to the Catholic Church? He's a person. He breathes. Let's go help him.
Yeah.
So out of no obligation, I just go and clear his driveway.
Awesome. That's incredible. That's awesome.
And it's getting to know people better, breaking down the barriers where the garage door is coming.
Right.
Where the garage door opener has, we used to have the kids run out and open the door. Now it's garage door opener. Hi, hello, neighbor.
Right.
And how are we supposed to know our neighbor and love our neighbor?
Right.
If we don't get in there.
So this is one way of getting to know your neighbors, letting them know, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
And I'm not just here, but I'm present to support and to be a friend and to help wherever is needed. And a great way by doing that is actually an act of service and going, here's one way to let you know I'm around. Yeah, that's awesome.
Without being in their face, come to church.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are like, if I've never heard of Lions before and you tell me empathy in action, okay, great. Then I say, now give me a few more details. How would you describe what Lions does and the work does in more details than just empathy in action?
So we're the world's largest service organization.
Okay.
And so anything from, it's all humanitarian needs, environmental, defending diabetes, protecting the environment, sharing vision, ending hunger, serving youth, relieving disaster, battling pediatric cancer, and helping humanity.
Awesome.
That's the global causes of the Lions.
Awesome. Okay.
So almost anything that you can think of, there's an organization, there's a booklet on it. You go into the Lions portal or website, and almost anything that, from flipping pancakes to dog walks to anything to help, help is in there.
Okay.
So it's very community based.
Okay.
Helping your neighbor, all the things that we've forgotten how to do gets done through a Lion. So just love it.
Okay. I want to ask a couple other questions that are maybe sort of related to this idea of helping people out. In our collective gathering, we've been going through this series where we're talking about how we were designed for good, but then damaged by evil, restored for better, and then sent together to heal. And the work that you're doing and the things that you're describing right now really fall within that category of sent to heal. Is there anything else you would like to share about the work that you do with Lions that sort of helps us understand how you were sent together to heal?
So I just look at it as how are we portraying ourselves, being the local church? How do we move? How do we become the hands and feet that's practical? Big word. God wants, if I put some effort in, he's going to multiply it. But we have to put the effort in, like moving forward. So we collect the eyeglasses, like these ones here, after 2 years.
Okay.
I go to my eye optometrist. He says, no, your prescription's changed. You need new glasses. I go, oh, Ray-Bans. Those are old. Those are old. I want some Gucci's. So I go get some Gucci's because my benefits pay for some Gucci's. And these ones go in the cupboard.
Right.
Am I ever going to put these on again? No. I'll never put them on again. But what the Lions do is they collect them. They get sent into Winnipeg. And in Winnipeg and Calgary, they have a restoration place.
Okay.
So if a wing is broken, often the glasses places after like 2 years they don't make them anymore. So they'll donate the rest of the frames to the Lions. They'll look at it, this is a screw missing, a nose piece is missing. They replace the nose pieces, steam them, clean them. They have readers for what the prescription is. Right. Seal them, put them in a package with a barcode saying, okay, this is prescription 1.5 and 3.75, whatever the number is, in a package matched with the barcode. Right. It'll go into a box. It'll go on a missions trip to India or Africa, somebody with the impoverished that can't afford glasses. So they'll do a entire complete set of mobile hospital.
Okay.
So there'll be eye doctors there. You come with your family. Oh, you have a stock, whatever you need glasses. We collect them over here.
Okay.
And we send them over there because we're too good for keeping these because they're out of style or whatever it is.
Okay.
So that's one of the other foundation things that we do.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, thanks, David.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, and thanks for being a part of this discussion. It's good hearing from you.
Thank you.
Something about me that you might not know is that I am fascinated with names. I feel like a name says a lot about a person. So I have a big curiosity around your name. So Ben, right, that would be short for Benjamin.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have to state the obvious. That's a big biblical name. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That would be awkward if you didn't.
Yeah. I'm not named after that guy, though.
Okay, tell me about your name. Are you named after like Benjamin? Isn't that like a famous person in the States too, a political figure?
Franklin?
Yeah. Are you named after him?
Yeah.
Is that the inspiration?
Nope.
Okay.
Definitely not.
What were you named after?
A&W commercial.
Are you serious right now?
I'm being 100% serious. I'm looking at my mom right now.
You were named after an A&W commercial?
Yeah.
Okay, say more. Which A&W commercial and who's bad in the A&W commercial?
I do not know. I think the story is like there's this old guy, and then there's this young couple, and they're coming into the A&W, and they're taking their parents out for dinner, and their parents order, and they're like 2 teens and a mama and a papa burger or something, and then they like change the order or something, and they're like, because his girlfriend is pregnant, and they wanted to tell their parents, so they're like,
wait, hold on. So it's a couple that walks in.
Yeah, and they're coming in with their grandparents or their parents, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so they like the grandparents order or their parents order, and they're like a papa, a mama, or something, whatever the dad burger is, and then 2 teens. Okay. And then when they sit down at their table and their food comes out, they're like, "Grandpa burger, what?" And then his wife's like, "Oh, Ben," just like, and my mom like, I don't know why, but just because she thought it sounded cool.
Okay, so there was this inspiration from this A&W commercial.
Yeah.
It was this all Ben moment that, was your mom pregnant with you already at the time, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was like,
I think so.
Maybe you like kicked or something, like when that happened, maybe she felt like a little kick in the belly, and she's like, oh, I think he wants to be called Ben.
Maybe
That's what, we'll have to ask her another time, check in with her and see.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you like A&W?
It's a bit pricey, so.
You don't feel a strong draw to it? Okay, that's unfortunate.
I have a big problem with money. I don't like spending money that much. Only on things I really want.
Okay, so it means you're very prudent with your money, like you're stewarded well.
Yes, I would like to say so.
That's a gift, man. And especially to learn that lesson at a young age, that's incredible. A lot of people describe you as someone that like is extremely wise. Like I think when we first met you, one of the things that really stood out was you're a deep thinker. And the comments you would make and the way you would contribute to conversations in home church or in a church gathering were like, whoa, how is this kid so wise and mature? Is that still true? Has that changed?
I guess like as I matured, I started thinking about a little bit more what I'm saying. What's coming out of my mouth? Do I really want people to hear that? I would like to say I matured a little bit. That's in that way. Just like thinking about what I'm saying before, like it just like blurred out.
Well, I'm glad you decided to take that literally and actually step into this space to share what you're thinking and what God has been saying to you. I definitely want to talk about SOAR because that's an experience you just had recently. And so much of what we're doing when we get together in our home churches is mutual discipleship. Like we're discipling each other and figure out how do we step towards this thing of walking with Jesus, becoming more like Jesus. I think it's really important that that conversation isn't limited just to adults. I think it's important that we're including everyone. So I love it when we hear from like the really young kids. I love it when we get to hear from the teenagers. Mm-hmm. Okay, so SOAR was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Okay.
It feels like it was yesterday.
Help us understand what SOAR is if someone's never heard of SOAR.
SOAR Heartland, which it is called, is basically like something in Winnipeg. Basically, we're walking around the north end. It's based mostly in the north end. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at the homeless people. We're looking at Indigenous culture, like all of these things that are connected with Winnipeg. And I would say we're trying to bring Christianity into that. Try and see it in a Christian way. To see God in these places that might not seem like they're that full of God. I would like to say, just like in these places with all homeless people that maybe don't really have anywhere to go or anyone to really love them. It's just like bringing God into that place and really just helping people out, even with it just like moving or like just carrying stuff down the street, like giving them food. Like that's showing the love of God. That's not, we're not preaching to them. We're showing them the love of God. And that's, basically.
That's huge. What you're describing sounds like being on mission, showing the love of God in our local context. So I think oftentimes we think of missions as I have to go really far away. What you're describing is missions right here in Manitoba.
That's accurate, yeah. It's right in Winnipeg. And then that's just like the fact that we're helping out our own community. These people that are not even living like an hour away from us.
I'm really curious what you walked away with. It sounds like there's a lot of processing you've been doing. And I'm really curious what you've walked away with, what you're sort of taking with you, what you feel God has put in your heart coming out of SOAR, and what is compelling you to step into.
Saturday was the learning tour, I believe. So we go and we have chapel. And then we like eat breakfast and all that, and then we go out into down to the north end, like kind of going into more of the downtown area, going to like some of these like the meeting place, if you know what that is.
Okay, that's a church downtown.
Yeah, a little church there, and then going to Portage Place Mall and just like seeing sort of like a lot of like people who might be in need there, just having a nice warm place to be.
Okay.
When it's maybe pretty cold out, just like praying for these mall cops. Just like coming up to us, asking if we're okay. Calvin just taking the initiative, which is really cool.
Okay, very cool.
I guess like even talking to some of these like people who are on the streets, like they're walking past us, and like I'm scared. I'm actually really ashamed of this, but I'm like really scared of these people. I'm like looking behind me, as we're like walking down the street.
Okay.
Like around all these people who don't look the best, and they're like pushing shopping carts and stuff. Like just like felt really bad that I was scared of these people after they've done nothing to me, after these people are literally children of God, and I'm treating them like some sort of disease, like trying to avoid them, which really hurt me. Just like the fact that I was like scared of these people for really they've done nothing to me.
Wow.
That really sat with me.
What are some of the things maybe you're taking away from that then?
I've been trying not to judge people by their covers. Trying not to like look at someone as a non-believer, even though they could very much be someone who is very close to God, who is a child of God, which they are, always. But I felt really bad about, like, I'm thinking about the worst case scenario, how these people could hurt me, but not how they could do good for me, how one of them could come up to me and they're like praying for me, how one of these people would change my life.
Wow.
That could happen.
Yeah. There's something about spaces or people that are unfamiliar to us that makes us put up our guard. Whether it's downtown or whether it's somewhere else, there's something about when something is very unfamiliar or feels like it's completely disconnected from my regular world, I sort of go like this. And it sounds like what you're doing is actually saying, I'm actually going to lean in instead of going push away. What if there's actually something here that's good for me and for that person? What if like you said, they want to pray for me or they're going to change my life. That's a posture of leaning in. And I think that's a really good posture because that's the posture Jesus has, right? He leans in. He says, I'm here. Tell me about your story. Tell me about you. I'm listening. I'm here. He's leaning in. So I think that's really admirable that you have the self-awareness to go, here's something I thought and believed. Here's how maybe it needs to shift. And here's the action I'm taking to step into that. I'm actually going to not judge people by their cover. That's a huge lesson, man. Like, that's a big lesson that models what Jesus did and taught.
Thank you. And then we kind of didn't really have that much time, so we just really drove around the North End a little bit and then went back to do chapel. I really like doing like worship there. And then
Why?
I guess, I don't know, like not really the whole mega church vibe, you know, like all the lights and stuff, but just having like, I guess like little circle of like these people who are kind of just worshiping, and then there's like these really cool lights there that just made the whole place shine with like just the light of God, I would like to say. Just like really good. Even when I was like really far away, just like having that light still shine on me through all these people.
Wow.
It's really cool.
Wow.
And then just the vibes there were amazing. Just feeling God a lot more there. Not so mega church vibes where it's just like echoing super loud and like super loud speakers, but it's more like personal between you and God.
Very cool. So you had this worship experience then at MBCI. You're having this personal moment with God. Is there anything particular that you felt Him placing in your heart during that specific worship time?
I feel like after that whole like learning tour thing, just like, I guess, stepping out of my comfort zone and like praying for people or whatnot. Like, I guess just like God telling me that He's proud of me. Like my dad, just like my actual dad, just like my heavenly Father, just like telling you that He's proud of you, which just feels so good. I felt Him telling me that the entire time.
Wow.
I know that might seem a little bit selfish, but like getting told that you're loved by the biggest celebrity in the entire universe.
Yeah.
Just like that He's proud of you.
Yeah.
And He's also your dad.
Yeah. That's huge, man.
It's like really cool.
What does that do for you?
It made me really happy. Like, I stepped out a lot out of my comfort zone. You know, like when you go to worship and there's like that one like very old like guy or like woman who's just like standing there like just like no shame at all.
Yeah.
That was me.
That was you.
Just like sticking my hands out. Like,
Wow.
And like just felt right, I guess. That was really cool.
That's such a beautiful thing you're describing of this like revelation of God saying, I'm really proud of you and I love you. And your response to that is like surrender and worship. And I don't think it's selfish at all. Like even what you're describing here, you didn't point at yourself and go, look at how awesome I am because God loves me. And you're like, look at God, look at how great He is, the biggest celebrity. I love how you said that. And your response is worship. That's a beautiful thing, man.
Thank you.
That's a really beautiful thing. Was there a time of prayer? Was there a group of people praying over you guys?
Yeah, we did a prayer room with Inner City again.
Okay.
So we went, I'm not sure if you know what a prayer room is, but it's like there's this one guy. We don't know who he is. But basically, and then there's also a scribe in the corner of the room. They're taking your names and they're writing down all these things. And he asks for your name. You say it to the scribe, and then he prays for you. And then in like 60 seconds of just like thinking in quiet, everyone goes around the room saying something there, either like an image or like a like just a word over them, or like some sort of like picture or vision, I guess. And then you go around the entire room, and like that was really like I had this really kind of cool experience where there was this one girl, and after we prayed for her, I don't know, after you started praying, after about like 10 seconds, my watch got like really really heavy because I was wearing my watch. It felt like I got like twice as heavy, and I went like this. My wrist went like this.
Okay.
And then I had this like word come to me, which is like, slow down, stop, 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 just like over and over again, really loud and clear.
Wow.
And then she's like, tell me that, and she's just kind of like reacting to it in a cool way that I didn't expect. Just like, I guess that's my first time really hearing God and experiencing Him physically.
That's wild, man, to feel like you hear God speaking something to you that then He's asking you to communicate to somebody else, and it means something to them. Like they don't just hear you speaking, they're hearing God speaking through you. That's the first time you experienced it like that.
Ever in my entire
amazing,
life.
Man. Does it like strengthen your belief that God wants to speak to you?
Very much so. Like I said, God is He's our Father. He wants to talk to us. He wants to be with us. He wants us to communicate His word and what He's saying to other people who maybe don't hear Him.
Right. And then Monday, what happens?
Monday morning, I think we went out with Inner City and we went to this seniors home.
Okay.
And we were clearing off these concrete benches full of snow, and it's like I think I still have like bruises on my hands from just like boom,
Some hard work
with a wooden stick. And then I guess roasting hot dogs for these people. There's this one lady. She lives in actually a complex on the other side of the street, and she's watching us through the window as we're like clearing off like ice and snow off of these benches, and she's praying for us out of her window. And
That's cool.
And then she comes over to us, and she's basically talking about how her nephews or her grandchildren are on the streets. So we prayed for her.
Wow.
Which was really cool.
Very cool. It sounds like from what you're describing, you have this woman that you're meeting, you have the seniors that you're meeting, you mentioned some of the people that you're meeting in Winnipeg as you're going through downtown, the different areas. It sounds like a big highlight for you from Soar was just all the people you were meeting.
It was very much so. Just the people were amazing.
And I'm curious what God might be calling you into and leading you into. He's giving you a heart for people, and maybe that has to do with people in your circle right now. Maybe that in the future has to do with people in a different place, whatever that looks like, whatever that means. I think whatever God has deposited inside of you, that's worth holding on to and cherishing, because it was real. It wasn't just imagination. It wasn't just a feeling. It was something real. And I think when God deposits something real inside of us, it's for a purpose. And so I don't know if you know what that purpose is yet, but when you discover it, lean into it.
Yeah. I think we were talking about this on the drive home. It's like, well, I asked the question, how am I going to keep this going when I literally like kind of live in the middle of nowhere? But I'm not really going to have that many opportunities. I'm kind of scared. Am I going to forget how to do this? Am I going to forget how to keep these habits? These will I forget to tell people about Jesus? Will I forget to be a disciple of God? Will I kind of just assume the position of just like an NPC, if I may say, but just like blending into the crowd and not trying to make a change? Will I forget to be a disciple of God when I do have the opportunity?
I think one of the things that we're supposed to do when we feel like we've experienced something and want to continue walking in that is to actually bring our community into that. So my curiosity, what does it look like for you to challenge your home church and say, guys, I want to continue walking this way. I want to continue doing these things. I want to continue developing these habits, but I'm worried that if I just do it by myself, it's going to fade away. Can you join me in that? Like, can we do this together? Like, together, can we walk in this direction? What would it look like to create that team mentality that you experienced at SOAR in your normal world, for example, with your home church?
I don't know. I would have to talk to some of the people in our house church, or get my mom to talk to some of these people in our house church, because I don't know.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I think it's worth you inviting your home church to process it.
Might be something to that, yeah.
Thanks, Ben, for chatting. I celebrate what God is doing in your life. Thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for sharing your processing. I don't think always I have to share something that's completely figured out. I think sometimes we can share what we're learning as we go. That's pretty much what we're doing most times, is sharing as we go. So thank you for doing that with us today, and don't hesitate to do this more in the future. Maybe you do want to take some time and write a sermon about not being an NPC. I think that was a cool reference you used. I think we need a full sermon on that with graphics and everything. Do you think you can sit with that and expand that a little further into like a 15-minute sermon?
No.
Sounds good. All right, thanks, Ben.
Thank you. See you later.
Good job, man.
Thank you.
Later, he said. Good job. You did good.
Thank you.
Well done, man. Shannon, I want to give people a chance to get to know a few pieces of information about you. I asked your husband the same question. And I said, if you had to sum up for me why or how you came into relationship with Jesus, how would you sum it up?
So I've been a Christian my whole life.
Okay.
I was raised in a Christian church. At my wedding, or at our wedding, my uncle Curtis looked at David and said, well, if you don't know, Shannon is well-churched. Because I was baptized in the United Church. I worked for the Lutherans. I worked for the Catholics. I was rebaptized into the Birth Color Mennonite Church. But I really didn't full-heartedly start following Jesus as passionately as I am now. Actually, probably when I had my breast cancer scare, which was only a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Not that long ago. I've always been a follower of Jesus, but now I have a more personal relationship with him.
Wow. Okay.
And I think that was my aha moment. You know, it's sad to say because I'm going to be 47 at the end of March. But
it's not a sad thing to say at all.
No, but because I've been in it my whole life, it feels like I should have been in it longer.
Sure.
But I never had that. It was of obligation before that, and now it's of want.
Wow.
So
I actually appreciate that you're voicing that, because I think there's probably others that maybe think, man, I'm so far into, my journey with God. Have I missed it completely? Is it too late? And I think what you're voicing is actually, it doesn't matter when or how. Whenever you feel like you've reached that place where it's now a want, step into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a want. It's definitely a want to be here, not a, we have to go to church on Sunday. It's just because that's what we do. That's why we're raising our kids, right? Like, we got to do it.
Yeah.
But no, it's my life. It's my blood. It's running through my veins.
So as you're going about, following the Spirit's leading, one of the things that's happened is you're now also a part of this organization called Lions. What's your primary reason for getting involved?
To start, my primary reason to start getting involved with Lions is my dad.
Okay.
He was a Lion. He was actually district governor in 2017.
Okay.
But being an RCMP officer, he never asked us yes or no questions. It was just voluntold. And he literally looked at David and I and said, why aren't you Lions? When is this happening? And that's why we became Lions, because Dad was like not letting us say no.
Okay.
But that was 10 years ago in February, and it's the best decision we ever made, other than marrying each other. And as of probably the last 5 years, we've really used it as a mission outreach to people. And kind of, our journey with Jesus, we kind of play it out with Lions. Yeah.
So when you say mission outreach and journey with Jesus, it plays out through Lions, that's key, because I think one of the hopes of a conversation like this, or when we get into a time of learning about what it looks like to be missional, a hope is that we're each individually listening and being attentive to what God is speaking, so that we can discern what path is he calling me on. Like for some people, the path is, I need you to do stuff in your neighborhood, right? David was telling us about what he does with shoveling snow. Like for some people, it might be something like that. For others, it's, I need you to travel to Papua New Guinea and be a part of something that's happening there. And I think it's more important that we discern what's the path God is calling me to, as opposed to assuming that there's a specific way we have to go. So I think it's valuable that you're mentioning, hey, this is how God is calling us right now to be missional. And our motive is actually to be Jesus to people. Is there a difference between just helping people and helping people because Jesus compels you to? Is there a difference between those two things?
I think it's more meaningful when it's Jesus compelling you to do it.
Okay.
Because you want to show the love of Christ with what you're doing to people without shoving him down their throat, right? Like we live in, unfortunately, we live in a very, I'm not sure if this is a word or not, but religional world where religion is more important in a lot of cases than the relationship.
Yeah.
And Jesus came for a relationship. He wanted to have that relationship with people. Being in the Lions organization gives us that opportunity to have relationship with people without and showing the love of Christ with our actions, or even just having people in for a meal or whatever, showing the love of Christ through what we are doing without opening up our Bible or saying we're from a certain church or shoving our crosses, wearing our crosses on. Like, you'll notice that David always has his cross in his shirt. It's never outside. It's always in, because
it's never outside like me.
Never like you. No. Sometimes it is.
Okay.
But that's okay that yours is out. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not that we're trying to hide that we're Christians. It's just we find that it's easier to have a relationship or to have that door open to us to come and help when there's something that somebody needs, as members of the Lions International than as a church.
Okay. You mentioned we live in a very religious world. Jesus isn't necessarily a huge fan of this idea of religion that is disconnected from the heart of God. I think as a side quest, I would love to have a full conversation with a group of people about this idea of religion, because I've been wrestling with this statement of religion versus relationship. And I feel like one of the things we need to do as Christians is redeem certain words and concepts.
Yeah.
I think I'd compare it to marriage, where I think that marriage is something that God created, you know? And I think when it's done right, the wedding and the marriage itself is actually something that points towards God.
Right.
And if you look at the stats on marriage, though, they can be quite alarming. And when you look at the amount of relationships that go wrong, like, you can see some alarming stats, but we don't get rid of the word marriage.
No.
And I think as Christians, we have a call to redeem the idea of marriage, even though there's so many instances where it goes wrong.
Right.
And I feel that same sense almost with the word religion. I'd love to explore what it looks like for the church and for Christians to redeem it to what God actually initially intended.
Right.
That's a side quest. Anyways.
Yeah. Nope.
That brings to mind for me a scripture. I'm going to read that.
Sure.
And then we'll keep chatting. This is James 1, verse 19. Know this, my dear brothers and sisters. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to grow angry. This is because an angry person doesn't produce God's righteousness. Therefore, with humility, set aside all moral filth and the growth of wickedness, and welcome the word planted deep inside you, and the very word that is able to save you. You must be doers of the word, and not only hearers who mislead themselves. Those who hear but don't do the word are like those who look at their faces in a mirror. They look at themselves, walk away, and immediately forget what they were like. But there are those who study the perfect law, the law of freedom, and continue to do it. They don't listen and then forget, but they put it into practice in their lives. They will be blessed in whatever they do. If those who claim devotion to God don't control what they say, they mislead themselves. Their devotion is worthless. True devotion, the kind that is pure and faultless before God the Father, is this: to care for orphans and widows in their difficulties, and to keep the world from contaminating us. So this idea of, like, don't just hear the word, do it. True devotion to God. Some translations say true religion is actually caring for those in need. So anyways, that comes to mind when I think of what's happening here.
Yeah.
How does this play out in Lions? So you are, actually we should talk about this, you are the governor.
I am the district governor of Manitoba.
District governor of Manitoba. What does that mean?
So we have, we're part of the multiple district of MD5M. So multiple district 5M, which is Minnesota, Northwest Ontario, and Manitoba.
Okay.
I am the district governor of the only fully Canadian district in that multiple. I don't have any clubs south of the border. So we have 46 clubs in Manitoba.
Okay.
Ranging from Morden all the way to Thompson.
Okay.
As far as Pipestone, St. Clair, Manitoba, right on the Saskatchewan border. and then sprinkled throughout the whole province.
Okay.
And they do food drives. They do disaster relief. Our heart is the Lions Foundation of Canada Dog Guides, where we train dogs we don't train, but we have a training facility in Oakville, Ontario, that trains dogs for 7 different types of disabilities: vision, hearing, diabetes, seizure awareness, autism, service dog, and facility support dog.
Okay.
And they're trained from puppies, and it costs $35,000 to train one puppy.
Wow.
And if you qualify for that dog, you get that dog 100% free
Oh, wow.
to
Okay.
help with your disability and give you that ability to live life on your own.
That assistance,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm curious to see, the stories that will add up as this is a 1-year term for you. The stories that will come to mind, at the end of your term, where you're going to be like, oh man, I saw Jesus in that. I saw Jesus that. I saw Jesus in that. Is there any that come to mind right now? Specific stories where you're like, oh my goodness, I see Jesus in this.
October 31st, 2 years after I had become a Lion,
Okay.
where this little girl came to my door.
Okay.
And I was ready to shut the light off because we had 250 kids come to our door. And she rang the doorbell, and I just looked at the door, and I'm like, it's one more kid. I can, whatever. So I opened the door, and she was wearing a Lions Foundation of Canada Dog Guides toque. And I looked at her, and I was like, dog guides. I said, my husband and I love the dogs. They're one of the reasons why we became Lions. Like, this is amazing. And she started to cry. And I said, sweetheart, why are you crying? You're getting free candy. And she says, I just want to thank you and your husband. I said, you don't even know us. She says, I know, but it's because of Lions like you that my daddy can take me trick-or-treating tonight.
Whoa.
And I looked on the road, and there was her dad, and he had his vision dog from Lions Foundation of Canada Dog Guides. And right there, I just started to bawl. I'm actually surprised I'm not crying right now, because I cry every single time I tell the story. And David started to cry in the living room, and we just realized right then and there, that's Jesus.
Right.
It's right there. It's the love of people. And that's all Jesus wanted us to do, was love people.
Yeah.
And I don't have to wrap my arms around her and say, oh, this is wonderful, I'm a Christian. It changed her whole family's life. I see Jesus in that. I do. I really do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some of the tools or things that you would identify as a disciple of Jesus, where you're like, when you hear God speaking, here's what you can do with that? For example, if I hear God calling me to go do this or go serve there, or how can I use this as an opportunity to discern whether this is really God's voice? What are some tools or tips? Because I think sometimes, even for me, I hear something and I'm like, oh, I got to hit the ground running. That's not always the wisest choice.
Nope.
There's sometimes a few things that should happen. What are some of the things that come to mind for you?
One of the things that comes to mind for me is, yes, you can hear what you think is God's voice.
Okay.
But if he wants you to do it bad enough, he's not just going to let you listen.
Okay.
So if it's something that David and I are supposed to do, and I feel it's something David and I are supposed to do, I'll sit on it for a little bit. And then it usually comes up in a conversation with David, and he's like, I really feel, I really heard that we should do that. I'm like, you know what? That happened a week ago. I heard it a week ago. And then you can discern if he's hearing the exact same thing you're hearing, pretty good chance that it's the voice of God. Yeah.
This idea of God will actually speak through community.
Yeah, huge.
And I love that you identify even trusted community that's close.
Yeah.
And I think even for me, that's something I'm learning as well, is God will actually speak and help a community discern.
Yeah.
And in that, I might be able to even discern what God is speaking to me directly. So that's good advice. Thanks, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Thanks for chatting about this. Thanks for sharing. And we'll have to hear an update once you're done being district governor.
Yeah. I'll be around all the time.
All the time.
I will have church at my house every Sunday.
Every week to make up for this last year.
The last year of not being anywhere.
This is awesome. Thank you.
Yes, for sure.
This is air traffic control. We're here at Soar Heartland this week, here to experience all God has for us and serve Him with our whole hearts. You're clear for takeoff.
someone that spends a lot of time, tons of time behind a camera, how do you feel being in front of a camera?
Feels odd. I feel much safer behind the cameras.
Really?
Yeah, but no, I'm grateful to be here. Grateful to have some tea with you. This is great.
It's always a good time to have tea. We can do a little cheers,
yeah,
man.
let's do cheers.
Absolutely. Come on now. Ben was here early and he wouldn't have tea with me.
Oh no.
Yeah, God's working on him.
Yeah. He's growing. Yeah.
Thanks for being willing to step into this, man.
Grateful to be here. Yeah, thanks for asking me to be here.
You have lots that is worth listening to. There's a lot of things that you could share in many different aspects. So whether it's about being a father, about being a husband, about leading a group of young adults, about leading some teenagers at SOAR, about evangelizing to your friends that do motocross and extreme sports. There's so many things we could be chatting about today. Today is going to be a little focused on your experience with SOAR that just happened. But before we dive into all of that, I want to hear potentially your most gruesome and painful accident you've ever experienced while doing some sort of extreme sport. Because I feel like then we can really get to know you. You know what I mean? Like, that's the stuff they're like, oh, now I know Kelvin.
Yeah, when I was probably 18, 19, somewhere in there, we did this thing called the bike jump at the Patterson Pit. Okay. It's a gravel pit with this like hill coming down to it. So what we do is to set up with my friends, we'd build these ramps out of plywood, and what we would do is we just pedal down this hill as fast as we could and then jump into the water, and then you just ditch the bike and just land in the water. It's amazing. So it's kind of sketchy by nature, the whole thing. We have our like old bikes that, not the most reliable of bikes. And then so what I was doing, I was pedaling down on my old BMX, just going as fast as I can, faster the more air, right? And then so what happened is my foot slipped off, and actually because of the chain disconnected, my foot slipped off and stabbed into the sprocket. So that, I didn't fall, stayed on the bike and just coasted off the jump and landed in the water. And 21 stitches later,
oh man,
my friend just like pedaled to the metal to the hospital, and it was it was scary for a moment, but it was good. Doctors stitched me up and 100% now.
Well, thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah,
I think that comes to mind for me because, and hear me out, you can disagree with this or you can push back if you want. When I think of stepping into something like SOAR, specifically as a leader, I think it's pretty extreme, because SOAR isn't just for the faint of heart. It's not this fluffy thing. And to step into that and lead, some teenagers, some youth into an experience where they're going to go on this journey, I think that takes someone that's willing to be like, I'm going to go for the hard stuff. Like, this feels extreme. Like, do you agree? What do you think?
I think so. Yeah, okay. It's definitely a time to be like all in. I don't think there's much room for kind of just being halfway in. Like SOAR is very it takes your whole heart, and I think it would align with what's extreme things take. Yeah.
What compelled you to step into being like a leader of a team that's going to SOAR?
Yeah, I've had the joy to be on the video team for the past number of years, and so that is always so much fun going around, and I get a different view of SOAR. And I've actually never attended it as a youth as a leader or anything. So I kind of got little glimpses of it, taking video of all the things. You saw kind of a little bit of everything, but this was so unique to actually have that opportunity to go and experience it as attending or as a leader. And so that was really cool. And there was a different depth that I found for sure. And just kind of felt the calling to step into leadership, because I felt like there was youth in our church that would be interested in going. And I felt just kind of that nudge to step in and just offer to be a leader. And so I felt like there was a need there.
Nice. Yeah. It was a little bit of a journey to get to the place where like, I am taking a team. Right? Tell me about that journey.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask that part, but
we go for all the real stuff here, man.
So I had well, we had talked a while back, like, I want to take a team. It'd be awesome. And it just kind of stayed at that state for like a long time until like pretty last minute to where we actually like started to say, hey, we are taking a team. And then that was a shorter window to where we actually like people knew that we were offering a team. So apologies to those listening that we didn't get it out there sooner. But yeah, I was glad that a few of us could go.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is because I think there was something really special and unique about this small, intimate group that went. I think it needed to be that. But I guess that's my encouragement to you is don't look at it with regret.
Right. I would say I was grateful that it was a small team because it allowed me to just not be overwhelmed by the amount of leadership. It was like, okay, 2 guys, I can handle this. I can stay connected here. So that was a good thing for me to step into, just a small team.
So talk me through what you were experiencing, what were you observing in the kids? How was God at work during this experience?
I've been so grateful to get to know Ben and Sam through House Church. And so this was just a sweet opportunity to get to know them deeper. And I really felt like I was like, I didn't know how all in these guys would go. And that would be something I was very amazed and excited to see how all in both of them were and attentive. And, you know, they could have maybe just gone for like have fun and just like not been all dive into everything. And that was really cool to see how they just were engaged and they kind of just went to that depth, both in the worship times and in the discussion times afterwards and listening to the messages and everything. And that was what I want to talk about was the team time afterward. That was so great and something I would just really enjoy personally, to just debrief a day at the end of the day, just that's like, really hey, cool. we went through this and talk about it together.
Yeah, you're hitting on something key there because there's a structure that's set up at SOAR, but a big part of Multiply, the team that puts on this event, is they're really big on discerning in community. Like the idea of being on mission is not a solo thing. I do this in community. And so there's a very intentional structure set up that we debrief how things went. Because that's part of like figuring out what God is doing in us as a community. So I appreciate that the team time did that. That it created space for that.
So there's definitely an element of like culture shock going to Winnipeg and seeing places that are so different than where we live. That was something we definitely debriefed in the evenings.
One of my favorite moments was, I think this would have been Sunday evening, and there was a worship time happening, and I was doing sound, and I looked over to my left, and it's probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And I looked over, and there was you and Ben and Sam standing up in a huddle and just sort of like swaying back and forth and like praying with each other. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, that is special. There was like just like the strong bond. And it was like, here's a group of guys really pressing into like God in community. And just the beauty of it didn't feel like you were like this leader that was, you know, saying, I'm going to lead you guys into something really crazy and you're sort of separating yourself. It was like, no, together. It was so beautiful. I was just like, man, Calvin is a phenomenal leader.
Man. And yeah, that time would definitely stand out as a highlight. That Sunday evening, specifically that moment with the guys. I felt really connected, felt like brothers. And I think to do things in community that way and having a team that we could link arms with in a small way, I think that was really special. And to be able to, just pray, give thanks to God in that time. And pray for each other, encourage each other was really key.
And I felt like that was just a visual representation of so much that was happening. So I'm curious, what more was happening? Like, what was God doing in your hearts? Like, are you able to pull out specific things where like, okay, this was a highlight. I really felt like God was doing this.
Well, I would say I was really excited to see how Sam would really pray for others. Like that was something that was really cool, like amidst our group there. He was just coming alive in prayer for other people. And I really love to see that. He can be a little bit quieter if you know him, but he actually has such a great personality. And then also in prayer too, that was just really special. And then I would say for Ben, I really felt God was moving in compassion for other people and in community and others at SOAR, and really just gaining an awareness of the city and other people in ministry. And also he mentioned about just his time in the Word. There was some quiet time between some sessions that he was just diving into the Word, and he was like getting so excited about what he was reading. So I really felt God moving through what he was learning in Scripture.
Wow. And then what was God doing inside of you? So you have this experience of SOAR is definitely set up for teenagers and youth to sort of be on mission locally, but from a place of like experiencing the heart of God, like not just being on mission, but getting to know who God is, having these personal experiences and revelations of God, and from that place of intimacy. And the theme with SOAR was sort of this throne room place of coming from the throne room and being sent out from there. How were you experiencing that even personally in your journey, beyond even just watching Sam and Ben? How was it happening for you?
Yeah, personally for me, there was definitely some revealing of things I need to surrender to God. Just been dealing with a lot of anxiety in my life last couple weeks and stuff, and maybe longer than that. But that was something I really felt like God was exposing to surrender to Him. And so that came through those times of quiet and prayer. And I really feel like I was able to hear God's voice through our prayer and intercession time, which was really cool, just allowing that time of stillness to pray and focus on other people and then praying for them. I really felt like God was speaking to me and telling me what I should share for this person. So
Amazing.
that was pretty incredible and something I haven't experienced for a while.
Okay. You guys joined with another group or another team from Inner City Youth Alive.
Yeah, so there was a very much like a blending that happened with Inner City Youth Alive. That being for two reasons. One being we just signed up really late and we kind of needed to just be molded into what they had. And also they were a small team too, so they were welcome. They were welcome to bring our small team in too. And the leaders there, John and Jenny, I was just so grateful that they would take us in into their group. And then going on ministry and having a lot of fun on that actually with them was so cool. We went to an elderly home called Kikinen Center. And so got to meet some people that live there and got to make them food. Cooked like over 100 hot dogs. And that was kind of our guys doing that part, the cooking.
Cool.
That was a really great time and brought unity amongst our two groups.
Amazing. And there's a bigger, I think, topic that comes along with that. Of what does it look like for us in our home churches to be active and missional and connecting with different organizations or communities where we can evangelize in practical ways even. So, I mean, what comes to mind for me is one of the verses from SOAR, which was Matthew 9, verse 35 to 38. And maybe we can read it, but I'm curious how you see this passage and what you experienced at SOAR. So maybe we'll read it and then chat about it. So Matthew 9, verse 35, Jesus traveled among all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, announcing the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and every sickness. I love that because it's both and. Announcing the good news, sharing the good news, and also practically meeting people's needs. Now, when Jesus saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were troubled and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the size of the harvest is bigger than you can imagine, but there are few workers. Therefore, plead with the Lord of the harvest to send out workers for this harvest.
Yeah, that scripture is just so key and I would say points exactly to our experience that we had walking around downtown Winnipeg. I can just see that here. When you see the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were confused, helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. And so you see lost and hurting and broken people. And you're like, man, what do I do? How can we help? And SOAR being an opportunity for awareness and seeing what's out there.
Yeah.
And then doing something the next day was going to that elderly home with ICYA team and just, serving, bringing joy to the people living there and loving, showing the love of Jesus in that way.
Yeah.
I feel is very much in line with what the scripture is saying.
Big time. What does it look like? I think one of the things about SOAR, any other experience, whether it's a mission trip, a conference, it puts us in a space where we're like, okay, man, I feel like I want this to be a part of my life. And then we come back home and it feels like we're not in that same space anymore. What are some of the things that you feel maybe are helpful even just for like your home church? There's 3 of you in this home church that have experienced something. I think if we're a healthy home church, what we do is then say, okay, what did you learn and how can we lean into that? Like, how does this now become the journey of not just Kelvin, Sam, and Ben? How does this now become the journey of the home church? So yeah, what comes to mind for you in regards to that?
Yeah, I feel like there was, speaking again on that just connection with Inner City Youth Alive, there was just a natural bonding that was happening there and not something that we had prepared, not something we had chosen to do. It was something that I felt God was calling our team into and creating space for. And just based on how beautiful that connection was, I just feel like maybe there's something more there. Maybe we can connect with Inner City Youth Alive and go do something. So I feel, I would be willing to go out there and maybe go back to that center we were at or see what else they have in store. But also would love to do that in community with our church, with Ben and Sam, and it's for them to reconnect with some of the people that we got to know.
I love that you emphasize I'd love to do that in community. Maybe it is we're going out once a month. Maybe it's just every so often. Maybe it's just even a one-time thing. We don't have to make a big commitment. We're just going to explore and discern together. I think there's value in bringing community into that. And so, I'm excited to see what those conversations might look like for you and your home church. And thank you for the way you felt something that was on your heart and then you leaned into it. You had this call to take a team with you to SOAR and you followed through with that. And I appreciate the way that you've modeled that for your home church and for the greater community. You've modeled in some way what it looks like to go, God put something on my heart, I'm going to do something with it.
Yeah, thank you, man. And I would say I received a piece of encouragement from you a number of years ago, just saying, you said to me, well, what is the obedient choice? And so that's been something that's rung in my head for a couple of years and probably shaped a lot of what I am doing and growing into. And so
That's awesome.
I often think about that. What is the obedient choice?
That's awesome, man. Well, you're doing it.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, grateful.
Okay, so I hope you heard God speaking through all of that. And whatever you felt God speaking, write it down, make note of it, and maybe even share it with your group. But then I really encourage you as a group then to also take time and pray together. As a group, as a home church, ask the question, God, who are you calling us to? That might be a group in your community that's geographically close to you. That might be, doing something in Winnipeg. That might be doing something outside of Winnipeg. But begin to pray as a home church, as a group of believers that are called to be on mission. God, who are you calling us to? Where are you inviting us to step out? Who are you calling us to? The message of Easter and the message of the gospel is that we share the love of Jesus everywhere. And what does that look like with your home church community? How can your community benefit from a local group of believers that are passionate about following Jesus? Chat about that and pray